Welcome to Bigfoot
and the Bunny.
This is a couple's journey into the mysterious,
the unknown, and the paranormal.
I'm your host, Chris Carr.
And I'm your host, Kristen Johnson.
Together we are Bigfoot and the Bunny. Welcome to Bigfoot and the Bunny, our special UK Paranormal Radio edition.
We would like to thank Mark and Irene and the entire Paranormal UK Radio family for having us.
We would. We really appreciate you guys, and we appreciated the shout out on your show last week.
Yes, we did.
We certainly did, and
Thank
we noticed
you, Mark.
there was a Monty Python reference in there about the bunny.
Oh, yes.
You know, because we're Bigfoot and the Bunny.
But this rabbit is dynamite.
Oh, and I keep her in line with the holy hand grenade of Antioch. She's just a bunny rabbit. But look at the bones. And I know my accent probably sounds terrible to you guys, and I apologize. You know, we're from New England, Massachusetts in particular.
Yes, we are.
You know, who has the worst accents ever. So,
yes.
You know, if you hear me doing some crazy crap like this, please don't be offended, because I'm really from Boston. You know, where we park our cars and we don't really know what we're doing. And I'm kind of like living in Rhode Island right now, which is like, you know, where Family Guy's from. I'm sure you guys have seen that.
Quahog.
Quahog. We're from the town of Quahog. So, yeah, don't take any offense.
Please don't be offended.
Have a sense of humor. But, no, I'm not really Bigfoot, but, you know, Kristen is sort of a bunny.
I squirrel.
I mean, she's a little furry.
Really? No, that would be
What?
Christopher. He is Bigfoot.
Oh, yes.
He's a homunculus.
I'm a homunculus. Yes, it's only the feet. Oh, God damn it. Oh, that sucked.
Back and...
Goddamn nature. We've got a special edition live show for you guys, and we will each and every Wednesday being released on...
the Paranormal UK Radio.
That's right, parkradio.com, baby. And we're going to do this each and every week, and we're going to give you guys something special that can be heard nowhere else, that is somewhat exclusive.
Yes.
So we hope you like that. We are not just hosts and like radio goofballs, but we actually do paranormal investigating and research.
We're paranormal researchers, yes.
And often, but not every time, so don't hold us to it, we'll include some of our own data into those shows. Because you guys are new to us and we're new to you, it's wonderful to meet you. It's glorious to meet you. We're going to try, like, you know, put on some stuff we may have aired before, but, you know, we'll be new to you, you know, like kind of like a used car. Like a used car, you know, new to you. Vinny's new to you used cars.
But I'm not dead yet.
Did you see the bones? Just look at the bones.
Rabbit's dynamite. Thanks, Mark Johnson, for that.
Yeah, you got us going on that.
I'm getting you right back now.
Now I got to go back and watch like all of Monty Python and the Holy Grail. It's like one of my favorite freaking movies.
I was sitting there listening to that, and I'm going,
English
wow.
humor.
I do too. I'm sitting there going, wow, he's actually goofing on the bunny. I'm like, oh, touche. We're going to have to do this skit. We love Monty Python.
Oh, we do. Another favorite movie of mine that's quite English is Spinal Tap. You know. So why don't you just make 10 louder? This goes to 11. Because it goes to 11. Like, you dumbass. Anyways, let's talk about this clip. I think we're going to use one of our better EVPs, and this is really cool. It's hard to tell it actually is an EVP.
And we have to set the clip up for you.
Yeah, we got to set it up for you. But just to give you the background here and set it up, it's I'm at my house, and I have got a spirit box and a recorder, and Kristen is at her house on this particular day, and
we're on the phone.
We were like on a kick, on a roll. If you look into our history, if you go to Dark Horse Paranormal Podcast, available out there on YouTube and anywhere podcasts are found, you'll see some information about a certain investigation we did, and we kind of became an obsession for us. It's really Toby and the Evil AM band are at what we call the undisclosed location, but we can tell you guys it's called Spider Gates, and it's in Massachusetts. It's a cemetery. It has a lot of legends surrounding it, and oddly, and for a lot of reasons that we can get into at another time, the legends seem to come through on our communications between EVPs and spirit box sessions. And we became like really obsessed with this stuff. Then it got to the point where we were channeling it in our own homes, and we could call each other, as we did in this instance. I was setting up the spirit box. I had the recorder going, and we were actually on the phone with each other, and I had Kristen on speakerphone. And you hear Kristen say something, and then you're going to hear a voice that says, I'm going to say it. And that isn't us.
Not at all.
That is not us. And it's clear. And it's actually before we started the session.
Before Chris put the spirit box on, we were talking, and he didn't have the spirit box on yet. So we don't know which side it came from, but it does say, I'm going to say it. And it's really very clear. It's one of our best EVPs.
Yes.
They usually happen at that point.
Turned up on the recorder. I didn't hear it in real time.
No.
There's actually another EVP we got, too.
There is. Just one before that.
Should we include that, do you think?
Should
we put them both?
After? We should.
Are we allowed to say that word?
I don't know. I don't know
either. It's not a family-friendly word.
We'll have to ask Mark and Irene.
Okay.
Thanks, Mark. Yeah, but
okay. Well, yeah, no, yeah. Let's do that. We're going to have to clear this with Central.
Yeah,
before we play it. The other one, because there were two, and there was one. The other one I did actually hear in real time, and I thought it was just Kristen on the phone, and I was busy like plugging in cords and stuff, and I'm like, yeah,
okay,
and I just kind of responded to it, but
it wasn't me.
I'm getting a little sidetracked here, so we'll get back to the one that we are going to play for you guys. So it's actually a little clearer anyways. I'm going to say it, and it sounds a little like this. Or this box, or that box. So that was cool, and that is a ghostly voice that we were channeling, we think,
through
from
our phones.
Our investigation, to our homes, through our phones.
Through our phones.
God, technology is good to us. And there it was. It's really strange. I mean, did it come from the cell phone? Did it come from the equipment we had around? Or was it just right there in the air? We're not sure.
We have no idea.
But we'll talk more about those things and get you guys up to speed on who we are and what we do. But to not dwell on things, we do have a radio show to do. And we wanted to make this special intro for you at the time of this recording, because the show is pre-recorded. We're kind of in the midst of Doge. I can't even say it right. Oh my gosh. Dogecoin hell. And I can't say it right because I was up all night. And we'll get into that in a minute.
Yes, we will. Skype parties.
And why I'm tired. Okay, well, that might be this little critter here, which if you're listening to us on audio, you may not be able to see, but is the Doge dog. And it's a little vinyl statue of the Doge dog put out by the U2's company, who makes these things. And I've been a fan of the Doge for a while, and I don't know why. I just like the stupid dog, and I was trading this thing when it was 5 cents, and it's gone crazy, and I missed the train for the most part. He
was up all night with it. He had me for hours sitting here last night watching it.
Watching the graphs go by, which is a really fun, couple's journey into the Wall Street graphing systems.
Thank God.
On the old Robin Hood and Weeble and everything else. And we're up a little bit, and then I kind of fell asleep this morning. It was daylight, and Kristen was already asleep, and I got up and I was like, listen, somebody, we had things to do, including having our remote viewing class.
Yes.
With our guest that we're going to bring on in a moment. But that was quite something. If you're listening on Paranormal UK Radio to us, some of this may be old news. Right now, Dogecoin is sitting at about 68 cents a share, where it hung pretty much all night until I fell asleep.
Don't sell.
And it went wild, and it was like, well, I better leave it and get some rest. It was going up. I was like, woo, in the money. In the money. And then I got up and I was like, I'm not in the money. I'm not in the money. And I was like, oh my God. And then scrambling to get ready and do our thing.
And don't forget, Elon Musk is going to be on SNL tonight.
That's right.
We can't imagine what his monologue is going to be. So hopefully he says Chris Carr should make a lot of money from those. No, he says stonking to the moon.
Stonks. I like them stonks. Keep treating, Elon. You might be in for the long haul, brother. You and me and this silly little dog. But anyways, we have a wonderful guest with us today.
Yes,
and we're really psyched about her coming on the show. Her name is Michelle Freed. And Michelle Freed is a graduate of the Alternative Practitioner Academy and received certification for the National Guild of Hypnotism. She completed the beginning, intermediate, and advanced training programs through the International School of Clairvoyance, where she learned to integrate her intuitive gifts with her hypnosis skills.
Michelle is a talented remote viewing instructor, fully certified in all forms of controlled remote viewing. She completed the beginning through advanced training programs through Right Hemisphere, Intuitive Specialists, APP, and received additional training from Joe McGonigal.
Michelle is a prominent member of IRVA, the International Remote Viewing Association, and received the Walkia Prize for 2017. She has research related to remote viewing and parapsychology, published with the Journal of Psychical Research, the Parapsychology Association, and 8 Martinis magazine, which I think I need to read immediately after the show.
Yes, with 3 olives in them, one for each of the band members of Rush.
There you go. Michelle works on special remote viewing projects with EONS, the Institute of Noetic Sciences. Michelle
is featured in the documentary Third Eye Spies and appears on an episode of Ancient Aliens.
Michelle is the former producer for Art Bell's show and currently co-owner of the new Midnight FM network and producer for the Midnight Society radio show with Tim Weisberg. So let's bring her on.
Hi there.
Welcome.
Welcome, Michelle.
Hi. Hello. Thank you for having me.
Thank you for being on with us.
We certainly appreciate it. How are you doing today?
I'm doing good. I love that you were talking about Dogecoin.
Yes, the wonderful Dogecoin. I like those dogs. They're so cute. I mean, how can you not like it, right? And
That's
literally a month ago, I was playing around with it. And I got the stuff for the little dog, and I got a T-shirt too. It says "Stonk" on it. Almost as kind of a joke because I, would trade it between 4 and 7 cents or something and make $20. I'm like, well, I'm going to buy a T-shirt, that kind of thing. And then it just went crazy. I was like, wow, if I had just left the money and have a down payment for a house right now. So fantastic.
He's not listening to me, Michelle. He's not.
I know. That's the thing.
This has sold everything. Would never sell though.
2 of my sons got on board with this too and put money in, and one of my my one son who's just graduated with a degree in accounting, he's holding. Okay, the other one keeps buying and selling and buying and selling.
Which one is making more money?
The accountant.
Of course.
Yeah,
but of course.
So,
yes.
But I said, you got to use a little intuition too.
Absolutely.
You do, and I try to, and it's tough. It's like one of those things I wish we had it set up as an experiment like we do, just to give people an idea of what your classes are a little like, because we take them and love them, where you may associate the answer to something completely different, right? And then you've got 2 different possibilities, and you have people remote view, which we're going to talk a lot more about remote viewing, which of those possibilities are. And it could be like, the Doge goes to $1 could equal an apple. And you want to see who draws an apple as opposed to, a cup of strawberries or something,
Right.
whatever. Which is really an interesting thing. It's deeper than we knew. And you've been doing it a long time. We just saw you on Third Eye Spies, which is on Amazon presently. If you have Amazon Prime, you can check that out. You're featured as part of the Las Vegas team, and I noticed you were there with Deborah Lynn Katz.
Mm-hmm. We've had on before.
We've had on a psychic, and she's wonderful. And as well as our Jeffrey Mishlove, who of the New Thinking Aloud show, or Thinking Aloud. And we're also big fans of that show. And Jeffrey, we love his shows. Yeah. That's where I first saw Deborah Lynn Katz, actually. And
okay.
Joe Gallenberger, who was also a guest on our show recently, was from Jeffrey. So thanks, Jeff. Trying to steal your guest now. He is a pretty amazing host and so knowledgeable. We love that. Do you happen to know why the show, because I had a question for you, if you know, Jeff, maybe you know the answer to this, because I never knew this. It's referred to as Thinking Aloud, but is written New Thinking Aloud.
I think he used to be he used to be a host for public, PBS shows and things like that back in the day. And then I think he came out with the first version.
We're losing a little of your audio. Yeah. Not sure if you're catching that.
Is it my audio?
Yeah, you're dropping.
Everything keeps blurring out.
I'm plugged straight into the router here. I've learned not to trust Wi-Fi. We've had like these crazy noises on Wi-Fi, and actually we had our friend Nathaniel Gillis on not too long ago, and I don't know if you know this story, but there were creepy voices all through it. And part of it was the Wi-Fi was creating this sort of hiss, but we also got these like really evil and voices saying awful things like through the conversation, using really bad words and stuff. I clipped some of them and I posted them and I sent them to him. He was like, "Oh my God."
Ooh, that's very creepy.
It is.
It was.
It could. I'm wondering if it's because we're using the video. Sometimes
So it was at that point that we decided to fix our audio issues, and I have edited this podcast for its listenability. And the conversation picks up here. Alan Karcher, greetings, fellow interdimensional voyeurs.
Oh, love it.
I like that one.
Greetings.
Greetings. Greetings. Like Michelle Craven.
Alan.
Alan, lots of people out there. All right. That's cool. Anyways, how are things now? Can you hear us? Okay, Michelle.
Yeah, I hear you. Okay.
Okay.
How about me?
So far, so good. So it would run for a few seconds and then cut out. So let's see if this helps. That's cool. No problem.
Okay, hopefully.
All right. So, yeah, we were talking about remote viewing, how you got involved, and you had started with Deborah Lynn Katz and probably her twin sister, right? Was she also part of that?
Well,
she was in one of our classes.
High school.
Yeah, right. She was. I forgot. Yeah. She is more into dream tending and things like that. But yeah, we've been friends and got into lots of trouble in high school. And,
it was fun having her in class because they are actually twins and they look exactly alike.
Really
like,
yeah, yeah.
Who am I talking to? Who am I?
That's so funny.
And how did you come to get involved with things like Third Eye Spies and meeting the aforementioned Jeffrey Mishlove?
Yeah, so, the Applied Precognition Project works on a form of remote viewing called ARV, which is associative remote viewing. And they use it to remote view a binary target. So you can use it for sporting events. You can use it for financials. You can use it for any question you have that would have like a yes or no. For example, if you were offered a job, you live in Chicago, you're offered a job in California, and you don't know if you should take that job, you can ARV it with this process and figure out, should you go take that job in California or, stay in Chicago? So you're basically taking a peek into the future. So you're precogging, like on Minority Report, the precogs, we become precogs, which is really cool. So there is a group of people that will do it on baseball, sporting events, and like the Dogecoin, you could be predicting a future outcome of Dogecoin. And we also did a scientific experiment, I think 2 years ago, and it's going to be published in the Journal for Psychical Research. And we used our dreams to predict a future outcome, which was really cool.
Wow.
So what we did was we set an intention on Friday night that we are going to dream about a photo that's going to be shown to us at the end of a baseball game. And then we would go to sleep, have a dream, wake up in the morning and do a session. And then they would make a prediction. And then the game's played, and then we get our feedback and kind of create a feedback loop. And then we ended up, I think it was a 62% hit rate. So we did make some money, but our purpose wasn't to make money. Our purpose was, we felt that using money would get the attention of a lot of people because, I don't know if you have heard this, but a lot of times when people, when you tell them you're psychic, they say, well, why can't you just play the lottery?
Yes.
But the truth, we have people that have won the lottery. We have people that use this to even Russell Targ in his day, did several projects where they made a ton of money, doing sessions on the silver market. And there was a nonprofit school that they were able to fund. There are tons of people doing this kind of thing. So, and people that are uncomfortable with using these gifts for money, we can also use them for personal, like I said earlier, should I wear the blue dress or the green dress? Anything, you could use that. So yeah, that's that. So that's basically in Third Eye Spies. It's a documentary that the whole beginning part of the show is talking about the history of remote viewing. And then the end is talking about this other form, which is called ARV. And now, I am part of a group of people that are moving forward into the future of where remote viewing is going to go. And my mission is to make it part of our everyday lives where we can use this all the time. And when we're looking for missing, we get hired or we're asked to help find missing people on cases and cold cases, I want them to call us first. I don't want us to be the last resort. I want people to understand how this works and why it's not perfect. But, once they understand what's going on, they'll understand how this works and that we can be very helpful in so many ways.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And one of the more fascinating points that we picked up from the class is like you can remote view something where time and space doesn't seem to matter. The future isn't necessarily defined. Like when you say like who's going to win the game and that kind of thing. And we've done some experiments within those classes that was like, oh my God, I can't even believe you just did that, asking another person to pick something out and ask another person, and then we'll see what they come up with. And I think with that movie Third Eye Spies, though, one of the big points they were trying to make, and this relates to taking classes, is that anybody can really do this. What's been most shocking to us is that like like, oh my God, it's not that we get every target. I mean, we're getting better at it, but when you get it, it's just amazing. The feedback's right there. You're looking at your own drawing and words, and then you see, maybe an image and you're like, wow, I just drew this, or It's like 90% right to that picture. Mm-hmm. And it's pretty mind blowing. And I think they make that point in that movie. It was almost like the government, after they ran their programs, didn't really want everybody to know.
Yeah.
Everybody is sort of psychic in a way, if you will, and can use this technology.
Yeah, I feel like it's a skill, and you learn a skill and you practice it. A lot of people use analogy to martial arts. But yeah, I think, it's a skill just like anything. And, we are tapping into what we already have. We used our intuition when, we were primitive people. We had to use a lot of our senses when we were hunting. We had to feel or smell or, how many, nowadays we don't go outside and smell the air to see that a storm's coming, but we did rely on that, when a long time ago. Now we have a weather app that tells us what the weather is.
Right.
So really what we're doing is taking what maybe went to sleep a little or atrophied, maybe is a good word. And we're just kind of waking it up again. And, and it takes a little practice, and we can get a lot of information. And, that's why I'm always excited about it.
We are too.
You guys did really great in class.
Thank you.
You had some really good information. You picked it up pretty quick.
I have something to confess here. At one point, I had 15 minutes to get, because I didn't do my homework. I didn't get a chance. We usually have a week or 5 days. And I did it within 15 minutes before the class. I had to rush. And that was my most pinpointed one that I was spot on with.
Oh, wow. See, that's good.
It was a rush.
Yeah. And I also think, because I do talk about in class, like to move faster, because the idea is, it's a long talk about how this all works. Mm-hmm. But the idea is that in remote viewing, it's about describing something and not naming it. And when you have a lot of time to sit and think about something, like you have a whole hour to do a session, then you start, having thoughts, and then you start using, AOL.
Right. AOLing, that's all I do.
Right. That means analytical overlay. That means that your left brain is trying to make sense of something that you had. So a little example that I tell everyone is, if I say to you, there's something that's red, shiny, and round, you're going to automatically think red, shiny, and round. My left brain's going to say probably an apple. But what if I told you that, well, that's not the only thing in the world that's red, shiny, and round. I could be talking about a fire truck. And then what ends up happening is, say, you start to perceive something that is cylindrical or, tubular, and it's yellow color. And then you're thinking and kind of soft. You're going to think, oh, banana. And now you're going to build a story that, oh, this is fruit. And what if you're doing a case where you're trying to locate, something, and it's important to know that it was a fire truck with a hose on it or something like that. I don't know if that was a great example, but the idea is that we don't want to build stories. We want to just keep everything kind of in low level descriptors and just don't name anything. So when you do it really fast like that, you don't have time to sit and analyze anything.
Exactly.
Right. That is something I run into a lot. It's like I'm almost like I look at my picture and I go, oh, it's too simple. And I write a word of what it is. But then we come to find out it's like the whole shape of the thing. It was something else. But if you look at the shape of it, like, oh, okay, there were aspects here that were pretty spot on. Not that, I have an amazing hit rate, but when it hits, like you have a picture of flowers and end up showing flowers, it's just amazing. And it makes a person wonder. So like, where does this come from? Is it that our consciousness is shared? What do you think? How does somebody know what somebody else has put in an envelope, or know somebody who put in an envelope, and you have no idea and no clue and no hints, guys? There's no hints.
Nothing. No,
nothing.
We're totally blind.
It's like, you get a random number kind of thing. And what is this? How does that work on a conscious or subconscious level, do you think, Michelle?
Well, I think, first of all, I believe that your unconscious or subconscious knows everything. I mean, that's a part of us. This goes into a big philosophical thing. Like, our conscious knows everything. We know all of time. We know everything. And it's kind of like, I can even bring up an example with hypnosis. It's like things that have happened to you when you were little go into your subconscious, which has permanent memory. So you don't remember them like right now. But if I hypnotize you and we go back to that particular time that we want to go to, then it'll bring those memories forward. So it is a big question about how we can do that. It's the understanding that our subconscious knows everything. And then in order for us to grab it, that is a process that we teach in remote viewing, is how to go and get those memories and bring them back so that, other people can understand it. We start to add all our senses and things like that.
Yeah, it's fascinating. It seems impossible. And I think, if you're not familiar with this or haven't actually seen the results that people come up with, do look into it, because it does work.
Yeah, one of the other things is I really strongly believe is that it's about experiencing it yourself. We can sit here and talk about our personal experiences and how cool it was and, how it felt. But until somebody actually has an experience, they're just not going to understand. They have to feel it to understand that, like, yowza,
and it's a rush,
it is a rush. And it's
like we considered ourselves to be somewhat psychic, and we have this kind of crazy eclectic background and different pathworks and things that involve not remote viewing necessarily, but certainly psychic abilities and other things. And we were both blown away. Like, oh my God, I can't believe we got that in like 5 minutes. Like, what?
15 minutes.
What?
I'm like, oh my God.
It's right there, And it's a great feeling. It's super rewarding.
It is.
And having, a teacher
blows your
like
mind.
yourself, especially, with all your experiences, it's hugely helpful, as opposed to maybe just reading a book on it and trying, experiments. Not that that's bad. I mean, certainly check those things out, but
you are an excellent teacher. You're
having
very patient.
a mentor, somebody who can do this and really explain it to you is super helpful.
Yeah, I feel like I learned so much by teaching, because I'm learning from you, because, it's one of those things where it's almost impossible to know everything on it, because it just keeps growing. And as many personal things that I have gained, personal things that I can add to my life on a daily basis, even the idea of an AOL. An AOL, when we spoke earlier, and is what we assume. So back to the apple, when we said it's red, shiny, and brown, we assume it's an apple. And I took that lesson and I applied it in my life and realized that I assume a lot in my life. And, it took remote viewing to kind of wake me up to the idea that, when somebody says something to me, I'm assuming something instead of checking it out with them to find out what's the reality. And that was a huge wake up for me because, now I check things out. I don't assume, if somebody says something to me that rubs me wrong, and then I assume that they had a bad intention. If I check it out and ask, what did you mean by that? Instead of, AOLing it, it changes everything. So there are like crazy lessons that just from learning this process, you can just change your life and just, and also the fascination of how, to learn about how you communicate with yourself. How does your left brain communicate with your right brain? Because they have, like twins, they say that some twins have their own language.
Yes.
But within ourselves, I think we have our own language too. And, and it manifests in our senses. Sometimes, if we're getting a warning sign, we might get a stomach ache, or maybe, if sometimes we're not aware, but maybe we get like a pinging feeling in a finger, and that's like a warning sign, but we're not aware of our body's reaction to things. So all these things, like using this skill, just really makes your life, enlightened.
It does. It's great. Don't sell the Doge. I've been telling him that. He's not listening.
You have to sell it at some point.
Yeah, right? But not right now.
I agree.
Thank you.
What does your gut tell you? What is,
I keep telling him, I told him all last night, stop selling. Stop it. Don't, just hold.
You got all different numbers.
Yeah.
And Chris, the trick is you can, and this is more of a hypnosis thing, but you can set up a trigger, and an anchor for yourself, connected to if you should sell or not. You can do that. You can say, like if you have to kind of calibrate it, but say
go ahead. Yep.
Yeah, say you can use your finger, and or you can douse it too. You can use a pendulum or something like that, and you can set that up that if I feel a tickle in my middle finger when I ask this question, should I sell? And I feel the tickle, that means I should sell. If I feel nothing, that means I shouldn't sell. That's just a simplified, but you can kind of set up anchors and triggers, and do that yourself. So which is cool.
One of the things I was doing was like imagining opening a door, and is the dog happy or is he going to bite me?
Oh, that's great.
Is he just sitting there going, you're the greatest, or
come on,
is he growling?
The tail wagging or the tail not wagging?
Exactly,
yeah,
exactly.
Great.
Yep, sure.
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. But yeah, I think it's great. I think, using all these different things, are, that's what all this is about, is using them,
Yeah, and try not to overthink, right? And the AOL and left brain versus right brain. That's when your left brain
comes in, and your subconscious is always right. It's always right. So it's just that darn left brain trying to confuse everything.
With all the things you've remote viewed, you must have some pretty interesting stories about, I don't know, I know you remote viewed Bigfoot.
Yeah, I was just going to ask you that.
And something, can you tell us a little about that?
Yeah, that was crazy. So, it was about, I would say like 2 years ago, and I have, this, partner I work with all the time, and, we, just practice, because I practice almost every day. I'm a little obsessed with it. But he decided one day that he was going to monitor me, and I'm like, okay. He goes, I have a target. Now I knew nothing, and he called me out of the blue and just said, I have a target. I want to monitor you. Okay, fine. So I get my things ready. I'm just ready to go. It's not like there's nothing new. Sometimes he monitors me. Sometimes he doesn't. So I really didn't think anything. And so we're going, and I'm using pen and paper, and I'm writing down I cool down my body. I'm also giving an explanation of kind of what remote viewing looks like. Is you're sitting at a desk and you have paper and pen, and you take about 5 or 10 minutes to just kind of calm yourself down, just kind of get to a blank slate, set aside all your worries and concerns for the day, and just kind of let that all go so that you can just remote view now. And then there's a protocol that we follow. And so I was doing my thing and just writing down what I perceive, just whatever I get, I just write down. And the first thing I got on my first page, or what we call a scan is where, as if you jump through a portal at the target and you look around, and what do you notice? Just like you scan the area. So I first noticed there was a subject. And I tuned in, I probed it, and it felt like it was a female. But the thing I noticed the most about it is that it was a big female. She was big for a woman. And I kept thinking it was a basketball player. And I also kept thinking, maybe I should change this to a male. And I was just not sure. But then all of a sudden it hit me. I'm like, no, it's a female. She's just big, and I was like touching my own arm and going, just so big. And so my monitor says, okay, now I want you to stand up and I want you to blend with the subject. And I said, okay. And so I stand up, and all of a sudden my posture starts changing, and I'm kind of trying to make myself big. I'm trying to like just blow myself up. And he says, okay, touch your body. What do you notice? I'm touching my body. I touch my arm, and I'm like, gosh, I'm so hairy. I have a lot of and I'm like, am I not a male? No, I'm a female. I couldn't change my mind. And so it was just going on. And I just started describing, being outside. And then I started getting into the consciousness of the subject. And the consciousness of this, I was getting a feeling of this subject was looking for something, searching. It felt like searching, looking for something, felt worried because I was all blended. I was getting these emotions coming up. And that's basically, pretty much like the quick version of, or sort of quick version of the session. And then it turned out that the target, which he told me afterwards, was to describe the reality of the Patterson-Gimlin footage. Is that a Bigfoot, or is it a hoax? Something like that.
All right.
And obviously, I know they believe it's a female, and I couldn't change my mind. I really wanted to change my mind to a male because it just didn't make sense to me. But that was my left brain trying to fight my right brain. My right brain knew the truth. And my left brain was saying, but logic says if it's big like that, it has to be a male. But sure. I stuck with it, which, that was another big, huge lesson for me. But yeah, I believe that footage is real, because I had no clue he was having me look at Bigfoot.
Was that the footage from 1979?
Yeah. That wow. The one where he's walking in the forest.
Yeah, it's kind of like a forest mode.
But yes.
Yeah, it's called.
Like he's on his way to catch a bus or something.
Yeah, right. You can look on YouTube under Patterson-Gimlin, and you'll find it. And nobody has been able to debunk it, as far as I know. They thought maybe it was a costume, but back in those days, they didn't have costumes or the technology to make costumes like that. They also were measuring, kind of like how they measure the planets in the universe. When you're looking out, there are ways to gauge how big things are. They use those kinds of technologies to look at the size of Bigfoot. and nobody's really been able to blow this out of the water. And actually, Bob Gimlin, he's very old. He's older. He's still around, and still talking about it and stuff like that. He's a fascinating guy.
Awesome. Our friend John Russell says remote viewing Bigfoot. Awesome. And it is a pretty cool story. And you had a sense that the Bigfoot was female. Was there any other sensory things like smell or anything? I know a lot of people believe that they have a distinct, maybe not so pleasant odor.
Yeah, I don't remember that. I wish I can find this session. It's got to be with, I don't know where, but because I didn't, it was just a practice session, and I was very excited about what I learned. But I never, it was just a practice session to me. I wasn't, a lot of people, like I just recently was asked to remote view Skinwalker Ranch.
Oh,
and,
that's interesting.
Yeah, I got paid for it too. They really wanted a legit, session on it. Mm-hmm. And I don't think that my information is on the popular side. But I wasn't really sensing aliens. I was really sensing some kind of, I wish I had the session in front of me. I was sensing some kind of group that reminded me of the things that the Nazis were doing, playing around with genetics. And I kept saying things like, this should not be like this is wrong. Like I kept feeling like they were doing things that go against
humanity.
Yeah. I kept feeling like that kind of thing was going on. It felt like an underground location with, fake light, fluorescent lighting or imitation lights. And just, I'm trying to remember what, there was like a link to something with money, some kind of military stuff. But then there was another group, which had a different agenda. I don't know. It was a whole, I have to pull that session out to get more
That's
details.
Really interesting.
That's
I mean,
extremely
a lot of the theories about aliens is that they are already here. And there's all kinds of sort of hollow earth, living in cavern theories out there. And people have said different things about that they are here and they are in the ground. And when you take the cattle mutilations of Skinwalker Ranch into consideration there too, it's, it's something to think about. Very interesting.
Yeah. Do you remember what were some of the sessions that you guys did that were kind of esoteric that I targeted you with? Do you remember any of the ones we did?
The squirrel.
Oh, yeah. We took that cat out of the bag, right? We don't want to give the answers away.
I know. Didn't we do Stonehenge? Did we do a Stonehenge?
I'm not sure. I thought we did something monolithic, though.
It was the one in, was it Siberia?
Oh,
with all the rocks.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The spherical stones.
That was my confession, and that's the one I got. That was spot on. That's the one.
Yeah. There's so many things out there that, we just don't have the answers to, and remote viewing can really give a lot of insights, and the whole idea is the fact that you have no clue what you're viewing. You get a random 8-digit target number. Mm-hmm. So you can't be biased in any way, and you just write what you get. And then it lines up to the secret question that we're asking, and that you don't see until you're done with your session. And, so that's what the beauty is. And also, it helps. I've helped a few people find missing people, which is fantastic. We can triangulate an area using a skill to map out something. We can, and that way the detectives can look at, if we find 3 landmarks, they can look at their map and find these 3 landmarks and figure out, or, use that to, that's the search area, between those 3 things. So, So there's just a ton.
I'll take you on a thing here. One of the things we do on the show often is because we investigate paranormal activity, and consider ourselves paranormal researchers that are extremely open-minded, that learn a lot about a lot of things. Like one of the things that comes to mind to me is like learning this kind of ability would be really beneficial for somebody investigating like a residential case, and they want to know, why there's poltergeist activity in the house or something to that degree. Much like, mediums that go on these things, if they don't consider themselves necessarily a quote unquote medium, they might get some inclination or some hints just by trying to remote view the location and, without any prior knowledge,
Right.
what's going on there.
Yeah. I mean, that I can see that being a huge help because, say you're at, one of, I don't know, what's her name? What's that popular,
Lizzie Borden?
Yeah, thank you. You read my mind. So I personally do not know much about her. I'm more into the UFO world and into like physics of things and remote viewing. So I don't really hang out. I just don't know a lot about the paranormal stuff, which is pretty good because then I can come in and do a lot of things. But I know there's something with Lizzie Borden, and I think there was murders involved and something like that.
Whether she did it is a big question, know.
Right.
Lizzie Borden took an axe and gave her father 40 whacks, that kind of thing.
Okay. Yeah. So that would be a perfect thing because, say I targeted, or I didn't target, say I have my team of 5 remote viewers and I say, okay, here's a number. And then my secret question is, we want to know if she did murder them, or we would just say, describe the person who murdered ... We'd have to figure out how to formulate the question to get what we want to know. And they would not even see that question until after they turn in their sessions. And then we go through them and analyze them, hold them up against the question, and then we get an answer. And how much like pure could that be? That's like such a pure answer. So that's why it could be used in, anything. I have people calling me to hire my team to do this one. I can't really say too much about it, but it's one of the most clever, and it's more of a fun thing. And it's so clever, out of the box idea. And we are so excited to, hopefully we'll start this project soon. But I never even thought about it. She just called up and said, hey, I know about remote viewing. I have this business. I want you guys to do this, that, blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, whoa, like that. I didn't even think of that. So it's just so great. And she's willing to pay the team. So that's so fantastic. So if we can get more creative people coming out there to, do this, I am all for it.
I think
let's use this.
Yeah. And it's really cool. The reverse is cool too. If you're a psychic medium and more from a paranormal background, and you go and look at something in ufology or something unrelated, how those skills would translate, because maybe that isn't your focus. More and more as time goes on, and this is nothing new, there are a lot of correlations between the two. Certainly, even I've mentioned on the show about Close Encounters, the movie. Steven Spielberg had a bunch of accounts on his desk, when he was writing it, and there was poltergeist activity in the majority of those accounts, and that's why it shows up in the movie. There are definitely, there's a lot of crossover there, but audiences can be pretty diverse. My feeling about cryptids has changed over the years, and other things as well. It seems like the more you do this stuff and have been involved in it, the wider the lens gets, because it's all connected, kind of like
it is
like our subconscious and the collective unconscious or conscious, however you want to put that, is or seems to be.
Yeah, that's a really good point. Even like I even want to add science. to this because I was watching a show, like I'm kind of a nerd. I was watching The Universe. I think it's, and they talk about the universe. And one of the episodes was talking about Mars. And they were just talking about the idea that they think that Mars had water on it. And there was something that happened and dried it all up. And what normally happens is the life on the planet will go underground. So that if we go to Mars and we dig underground, I think there's a big volcano thing there. You go deep down underground, we might find life. And I'm thinking about that. I'm like, well, oh my gosh, like, why would we not think that other places would have life underground? Like, they're talking about microbes, but okay, can we think about maybe intelligent life? Like, what's going on in Antarctica?
Exactly.
Maybe. I know it's crazy. I'm even feeling crazy saying it, but it is plausible. So if it's something we think of, it could be true. And so, and I'm always targeting my students on Antarctica because I'm fascinated with it. So
also ancient civilizations like Kristen's favorite place, Göbekli Tepe.
Yes.
Where the people seem to go underground, and it could have been caused by, naturally occurring events, floods, meteors
Younger
hitting
Dryas.
Younger Dryas period, messing the atmosphere so much that people had to live underground and become kind of like, mole people.
That was when Darren Green.
Yeah.
Sure. Why not other planets, right?
Why not? Or here.
I remember the first thing that you gave us, like a monolith. It was the face on Mars.
That's right.
One.
Oh, right. That guy. Yeah.
Yep.
And I did a week of that, 5 days of that, or almost. And we did get that one.
Yeah.
That one we did get.
That was one of the ones we did pretty well on.
Yeah.
And it's amazing. You just pull it out of seemingly nowhere.
Yeah.
I know.
For my next class. I'm doing another class May 22nd. I'm starting another 6-week course. And on May 22nd, I think that's a week after next, I think.
That's coming up.
So, I'm going to have to change all the targets now.
Yeah.
Anyone listening, they're going to know.
We put your website in our ticker, but for those of you listening, the website, and correct me if I'm wrong, it's www.butterflyeffectcenter.com.
Correct.
And that's where you can find out more information on taking these remote viewing classes that we've been talking about, as well as hypnosis. And you have quite a few things on that site, right?
Yeah, there's a lot going on. And then we're just adding this ARV class, which you're taking now. How do you like that?
Heck yeah. I love it. I like this way of doing it, maybe because of bad time management skills, more so than the other, just because I have a tendency to overthink things, and we both kind of squirrel, so sometimes it's hard to stay focused and pull that information. Right. But I also see the value in going in the longer way and taking your time, because as you dig and things come up that wouldn't have otherwise come up, and we do the technique. I won't go into the details of it, like matrixing and stuff like that. Right. And I'll look at it like, oh, really? I got to go through this. But you know what? You do get something out of it. You do. When you're done, you're like, wow, at the end, you have a clearer picture of what the message was that you received. What the target is. That's pretty neat. But on the other hand, the ARV, which moves along much quicker, sometimes deals with more of that kind of gut intuition and what's that first thing that popped in and what is it? What's the good stuff of this? And go. 3, 2, 1, go. And that's kind of fun too. So I think they're both wonderful techniques, and I love how you explained them to us. That's great. So we just have to dominate the world and have everybody doing this. That's right. We do. And there's Ken Allen's giving us a shout out from the Wizard's Table podcast, and a good friend of ours. Hey, Ken, how you doing? So anybody out there listening that's, listeners live has any questions for Michelle concerning remote viewing or anything in general, please, feel free to give us those questions. We'll pass them along. I know you don't have your sessions, your previous sessions in front of you, but
you have remote viewed orbs. What was that like? The feeling to you? What was that like
I'm so glad you brought that one up because that was weird. So have you ever heard of ECETI Ranch?
It rings a bell, but
Washington near
sure if I'm thinking of SETI.
Mount Adams. James Gilliland, it's his place.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
So we were there, and just a lady that works on the premises walked up to me and my friend, who's my partner that I brought up before, and she said, can you remote view something for me? So I did my session, and I was feeling like I couldn't find words to describe what was going on. I just felt like there was no beginning, no end, no death, no beginning. Like it was something, I drew pictures of like little molecules or cells moving in blood, or just something moving and floating and all these, but there was a consciousness to whatever this was. And it turned out that, she handed me a picture of her, dancing in a field with orbs around her. And so I got the impression that these orbs were actually entities, that had no beginning and no end, and that they did have a consciousness. And I don't remember, there were other things that came up with that. And I remember not being able to find the vocabulary to describe other things. So I was trying to sketch things out, and nothing could hit it, exactly what was going on with me. It was crazy.
Wow. So, believe that they have consciousness, but they're, I don't know, just molecules, atoms, whatever, orbs.
Yeah, they
Eternal.
were definitely beings. Yeah,
Wow.
they were beings, and they were conscious.
Yeah, and that is the way that aliens often appear to ufologists, and people in the paranormal also see orbs, although they often get debunked because we use infrared cameras, which, makes all your dust look like orbs. But that's a completely different thing.
Yeah,
I know one of the things that you also had mentioned, and I don't know the story about this at all, but the name makes me laugh. Skinny Bob.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, right. Yeah, Skinny Bob. There is a YouTube video if you put in Skinny Bob. Sorry about that. So I think there were about 5 of us, and what happened was the person that I learned remote viewing from, he used to, when I was learning, he used to give us practice targets, like I give you guys practice targets. And so he would give us one a week, and we were doing this for 2 years or more. I still once in a while do it. And what he did was he mixed in the Skinny Bob target like 3 times within 6 months. And we never really knew, we had no clue that he was doing that. And all of our sessions that he gave us all lined up. And all of us, there were about three or 4 of us, all of our sessions lined up with the tasking, but it also lined up with each other. And it was just basically Skinny Bob was real. I know there's a lot of controversy, but according to our sessions, we felt that there was some being that felt that they were left behind. And then there were, I think there were others that crashed and died. I think it was he's associated with Area 51 crash.
Oh, very interesting.
He was the one that they interviewed, and he was alive. And gosh, it's so hard to remember what we came up with. I should have prepared better.
No, it's fine.
Oh, no worries.
This is really cool.
Take your time. I'm not familiar with the Skinny Bob story.
No, not at all.
Sounds a little like E.T. Phone Home, but maybe even sadder.
I mean, you should. You should pull up the video because you know, a lot of people think it's fake, but in this particular case, we did not think it was fake. And, you know, a lot of times we do a lot of remote viewing and they do come up fake. I just happen to be talking about right now the ones that they felt real to me and according to our sessions.
Sure.
But what happened was, I think nobody knows who put this YouTube video up. That's it's a big mystery behind it. And I'm thinking that you probably, if you see it, you know what I'm talking about. You probably didn't know it's called Skinny Bob. But he has a big head and big long fingers, and
I see him. I know. I remember.
Oh, you see it now?
I see it. We have it up.
Yeah, I'll share my screen a little bit here, and for those of you listening, he does have the typical kind of big head and big eyes, but it is quite skinny.
Yeah, a lot of people were fascinated because they're like, if this is fake, like the way his eyes move, his mannerisms, like a lot of people feel that's real. But I'd be interested to know what people think, you know, by just looking at the video and then lining it up with the session, or, you know, even having my people. Maybe I should have my.
Yes, we should do this.
I should. Yeah, I think you guys should do that.
Yeah, no, that's quite the interesting fella, and I do think I've seen pictures of him before. But boy, it does almost have a sad look to him too.
That guy.
Okay. You left me.
And you think he was associated with Area 51?
Yeah, or there was a crash somewhere around there. I'm not sure if it was the actual Area 51 or somewhere a different crash in that area or at the same time. I don't know. But, you know, what I strongly remember is him feeling left behind. Like there were others and he got left behind, and he was irritated with the people questioning him and, you know, stuff like that. So I remember the emotional part, but I don't remember what the details were that we got in our sessions. Because that one I did a very long time ago. Got
you.
I didn't even know the name of his nickname was Skinny Bob.
Skinny Bob, yeah.
It's crazy. I can't imagine the emotional pain you feel when you're doing that remote viewing. Someone like that.
Yeah.
Yeah. Now, speaking of going back in time a little bit, the classic.
Oh, yes.
And ultimately number one iconic figure in paranormal radio and ufology radio and other odd topics is, of course, Art Bell. And you worked under Art Bell for a while. Is that right?
Yeah. So I was involved in remote viewing, and I had just gotten divorced, and I had to kind of figure out what I'm going to do with my life. So in the meantime, I had a lot of friends that wrote books. And so I used to call up random radio shows and ask if, you know, people would book, you know, my friend on their show. And I just have always had the attitude like go big or go home. Mm-hmm. And so I just went, I'm going to call Art Bell. And so I did. I called Art Bell, and he was the executive producer at the time. So I think he had a different host that was talking, but he was still running everything. So anyway, I called up. I spoke to the producer at the time, and we spoke for an hour. I just pitched my guy, and then he's like, okay, I'm going to get back to you. And I'm like, about a month passed, and I'm like, oh, great. I got to really work for this one. So I followed up, and then I get a phone call from the host at the time, and she says, I'm so sorry that, you know, I didn't get back to you, but, you know, I lost my producer, and I really like your guy, and I want to interview him. And in my head, I'm going, hire me. Like I'm whispering to myself, hire me. And somehow that whisper in my head somehow came out my mouth. And I went, hire me. And I'm like, what the heck? And she was just as shocked as I was that came out of my mouth. And she's like, what, blah, 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 blah. And she's like, well, let's give you a week and see how you do. And then we'll make a decision. I have to talk to Art and this and that. I'm like, okay. So in 3 days, I booked like 2 weeks of guests, and Art told her, you better hire her right now.
Wow.
And that's how I got the job. And so I worked there until he passed away. And, and then, not recently, like a year ago, Keith, who, was partners with Art, ended up retiring and selling the network. And so I don't know if you saw the article, about these guys that bought the network. I guess they're not getting along, and they ended up firing me and Tim. And then we started our own show. Like we spun off of Midnight Desert
Nice.
and just started Midnight Society. So
Yeah, you can talk about Midnight Society. We're fans. We were fortunate enough to be guests on there at one point too, which a lot of people probably don't know that we do interviews occasionally as well. We're not just hosts, but which was a lot of fun. And Tim is awesome.
Oh yeah,
he's just a legend
Tim
out here in New England.
Yeah, he's great. I love working with him. He's a great guy, and he does a really great job. So I'm very happy with that. But yeah, I mean, and then so I mean, that's kind of how it happened. It was kind of cool because, it's just, I guess, a growing thing for me personally, to just like speak up for myself and just say, hire me. And then it happened, and I remember waking up in the morning, like trying to pinch myself. Like I'm working for Art Bell. Like I'm pinching myself. Like, did that happen or am I dreaming?
If people aren't familiar with Art, I mean, he really is the icon of all of this stuff, So you just seem to bring it to everyone over the years. His original shows. He started out
at Coast to Coast Radio, AM, and he retired from there. And then he and Keith started the Dark Matter Digital Network. And the whole point was to have Art's show be the anchor, and then they were going to have other shows on the network as well. And then so that's how that all kind of happened. But he really was, like a lot of people say, he was everybody's friend at night, because there is a whole huge audience overnight, truck drivers, insomniacs, creative
people driving home from their gigs, which was, in my case, I would be, I was a musician in another lifetime. And I remember back in the 90s driving home from out of state gigs and stuff like that, and just scanning the radio, and boom, Art Bell would come on and hear, one of his shows and just be, what is this? This is amazing. Yeah.
And you know who else was a huge fan of Art Bell's? Do you know Matt Sharp from Weezer?
Oh yeah.
Yes.
Oh yeah. We like Weezer. My son is a huge fan of Weezer. In fact, they have a new record. Giving them a plug.
So so Matt, Weezer, they're not together anymore. So Matt started another band, The Rentals, and he wrote a whole album dedicated to Art Bell. And we found out about it. We reached out to him, and I got him booked on our show, and we became really good friends. And he is letting us use his bumper or his music as our bumpers.
Oh, that is so cool.
Great. Society, that's all Matt Sharp's music because he was such a huge fan of Art.
That's really interesting. I think there's some kind of Weezer together. Now, I'm going to ask you this only because my son kind of suckered me into buying him a Weezer record.
Yes.
Quite literally, 2 days ago.
Oh,
it
was a new one?
There's a new
maybe
one.
just Matt Sharp left and they're still going on or something.
Maybe, but art certainly had an influence on music. Kristen and I just learned something. We're big fans of the band Tool.
Oh, yes.
And it never occurred to me that one of their older songs, which I'm going to probably say this completely incorrect. It's never actually said in the song, but it's Fayapte Ayad, which is Enochian, as in John Dee's angelic language, for a voice of God. It is basically an Art Bell phone call, the panicked Area 51 phone call, which is kind of famous. I've heard the recording before, the guy calling, and he's like, yeah, I'm at Area 51, and he's kind of really terrified with music over it. So it's just amazing how far it stretches. And wow, I didn't realize Matt Sharp had an entire record dedicated to it. I'm going to have to look into that. I think that's fascinating.
Yeah.
It is.
Yeah, it's really cute. Cool.
Oh, yeah, we got a question for you here, and it actually comes from John Russell, psychic, who was our guest last week. John was awesome, and if you guys don't know who John Russell is, I suggest you look into this man, because
please.
We had such a fun interview with him actually last week. He was awesome and so comfortable to talk to. We loved it. But he has a question for you, Michelle. He says, Michelle, have you heard from Art or remote viewed him after his death?
No, I haven't.
Okay.
I don't know how I feel about that.
Yeah,
I'm not sure. I don't know.
I understand that. Personal.
Yeah, I don't know if I would do that. Huh. I mean, I haven't even done my own family. You know, like my dad, I haven't done that. But that's interesting because, that reminds me, oh my gosh. So I did this one session. This was like probably the creepiest session I ever did. And, let's see if I can remember it all. So we were, this was a practice session, and we decided we're going to do an experiment, and we have like a hat full of targets. Okay. And we're not going to pick the target until after we do the session. We're just going to make up a number, but we have no idea what we're going to do. Nobody knows. Okay. We're going to pick the tasking after we do the session, because, we're going into the future. We know everything. So it shouldn't matter. Right.
Right.
So I'm sitting down to do my session, and, whatever. And when you get to this portion of the session, which is called the matrix, which Chris brought up earlier, you're probably in theta. You're pretty deep into your session. You're making contact, and there's a really connection. That you're there, and that little voice in your head that whispers that you don't really pay that much attention to, but it's like, in your ear or whatever, in your mind. So that voice, I noticed, like, very subtly started to change. It started to sound like a male baritone sound, like a baritone voice. And it started out soft, but then it started getting a little bit louder, and it started kind of taking over my session, telling me, put this here, put that there, do this, do that. And I'm like, okay, what's that? So I wasn't scared, but I was like surprised. And so I wrote the word break, and I stepped out. I just went to break. And then I called my friend and I said, hey, like, something weird just happened. I had this, kind of voice start talking to me during the matrix and, directing me what I should do. And so he's not an alarmist, which I like. And he says to me, well, just transcribe whatever he says. Like, duh, Michelle, just transcribe it. I'm like, oh, duh, I should have thought of that myself. So I'm like, okay. So I go back into session, and I just pretty much, reconnected wrote down. I didn't understand anything that it was talking about. I think it had something to do with a Merkaba and maybe, I don't know. It was just these like messages and just all this rambling. So I finished the session. I was done. And what happened? So then there were 3 of us doing it. So we met up. Yeah. So we met up to discuss and pick the target. We picked the target, and the target was to describe a benevolent, entity and UFO or something like that. So it was benevolent, which is good. And so we said, hey, why don't tonight we do another session to find out who was talking to Michelle? Like, describe this baritone voice, who it was, what's their origin, whatever. And let's do another session. Just keep finishing the session. And we're all like, yeah, cool. Mm-hmm. So I go to sleep, and I had this dream or something where I was in darkness, and I felt like I was falling backwards in the darkness. And then I woke up in the morning. I felt very drugged up, like, when you're coming out of anesthesia. And then, all the heat in my body, whoosh, flew out of my body, all the heat. And I'm like, what the heck just happened?
Right.
What was that?
So you felt cold.
I felt cold, like it whooshed, like the heat just flew out of my body. And then I had this really bad kind of headache in my forehead. And so I called my friend again, and he's like, oh my gosh, like I also had a weird dream. I think we were visited. And I'm like, come on, don't be paranoid. And he's like, no, I really do. Let's call the third person. So we called the third person, and she's like, oh man, what did she say? She goes, I smoked weed last night. You can't count on me. I'm like, okay, all right. So the 2 of us had this really weird experience. So that was like the weirdest thing that ever happened to me.
It almost sounded like you guys got abducted, not just visited. That's what I was thinking about when you were saying.
Right. That does.
You were going backwards, and then the whoosh feeling, and
it's possible. I mean, I don't remember much, or and I was never scared. It was just weird, a little creepy, but I never felt fear in all of it, which is interesting.
Well, that's good.
So,
wow, that's crazy. What a crazy story.
Actually, I got nothing. It's not as cool as that, but it's kind of interesting. I do have a dream story for you, and I did tell this a couple weeks ago, but it's kind of related. I thought of it because I'm drinking a lot of water. And one of the first things you had told us in remote viewing class was that you'll drink a lot of water. Something about it makes you thirsty.
Yeah.
Yes.
And there is.
There is something
It's weird,
about
and
that.
I can't explain it. And the other thing is your dreams are going to get crazy. Keep a dream journal, which I do.
Exactly.
And I recommend dream journals, whether or not you're taking these classes. I mean, they just really do help you remember your dreams well. But I had the most peculiar dream the other week, and I wanted to tell you about it. So I'm going to take this time to tell you real quick. It was like sort of a normal dream, and it was very clear and vivid. And I remember it very well. Kristen was in it, and there was a lot of activity going on. It's just unrelated to everything. But at some point in the dream, I took a nap. Okay. I put my head down like on a railing. I was sitting in a chair, and I fell asleep within the dream. And then I had an astral projection, and this felt different than the dream I was in. Now, I'm familiar with astral projection, and I don't know if you've had experiences with that, with separating the self and the vivid dream where you're conscious and control your dream and that kind of thing, and flying, if that's familiar to you, what that feels like.
Yeah.
Well, I am, and I used to be really good at it when I was younger, blah, blah, blah. I'm not that great at it now, but I really enjoy it when it happens. And I always have this sensation of like, oh, I know I can do anything. Let me just kind of get my wits about me, and I'm going to fly, and I just kind of need to will it. I just need to will this feeling. And I'm in a completely different town, and I'm kind of flying down the main road. There's like nobody around, but everything in the town had this sort of
familiar.
Yeah, it was familiar to me, but it also had like almost a computer graphic quality to it.
Pixelated.
It was pixelated. It was a little pixelated, like I was watching it within a video game. And I was thinking, how weird is this? Like every building, just like I was playing Call of Duty or something. And it was sort of like the way it was drawn. It just wasn't real. But I had this incredible sensation of knowing that I was having an astral projection, right? I remember in that astral projection state that I had fallen asleep on a railing in the dream, and that I could possibly fall. There was a stairway nearby, just happened to be. So I did that thing where you just kind of like snap back into your body, and you're like, oh.
Yeah.
Okay, so I did that, but did I wake up? No, I'm still in the dream I was having when I had the astral projection. Right. So,
Dream within a dream.
Yes,
dream within a dream,
exactly.
exactly. Quote Edgar Allan Poe. And it continued to occur, and the dream went on and just ended naturally, right? But it was so strange that it was pixelated. I felt like I had, gone to another layer of the onion of consciousness. I think that's how I put it. I was telling Dr. Joe Kellenberger about that as well. And it's just so strange. Like, why the pixelation? And I don't know. It makes you think about simulation theories.
Yes.
Oh,
Could we be living in a simulation? Are we just, this consciousness that nobody can really put their finger on? And why maybe some of these things are connected is because they're part of, we're stuck in the matrix. I don't know. It was very bizarre.
The thing you can do is we could remote view it. We could ask that question.
I had remote viewed the night before I had the dream. That's where I needed to tie that back to you.
Oh, okay.
So thank you, Michelle.
Thank you, Michelle. Probably Michelle.
Have you two ever had a shared dream?
No, I don't think we have that we've talked about. We've seen each other in dreams, but I don't know that we've had one where we shared it and talked about it. That would be a cool thing to try, to set an intention, maybe.
Mm-hmm. It would. So we do. We're like kind of like twins. It's very weird. We always say, get out of my head. I was just thinking that, or
we're in our heads constantly.
It's constant.
We're like the world's oldest couple. Like constantly, like it's songs. It's
everything.
Ridiculous.
I'm like, I had that song in my head right now.
And,
where'd you get that from?
Oh, I think it might snow. I was just thinking it might snow. And it's June or something, and it snows. I don't know.
We call it synchronicity. So.
They are. There's a lot of little synchronicities and oddities where you have almost the shared thought.
Well, there's a shared brain. It's weird.
Yeah. Yeah. I have with Deborah Lynn Katz. One time sometimes I wake up in the morning and I'll hear a whisper like, Michelle. And I always know it's her. She's thinking about me or talking. But this one time, she calls me up on the phone and she's like, Michelle, were you talking to your daughter about something about lunch or something? And I'm like, oh my God, get out of my head. So what happened is about an hour earlier, my daughter and I were in the car, and my daughter said to me, what should I bring for my lunch tomorrow? I don't, because she was in school and she packed her lunch. She's like, do you know any creative things I can do for my lunch? And it wasn't anything important, but the fact that Deborah heard us having this conversation was hysterical. So, there's, all that, for about a year, I was intensely working on astral projection and my dreams. So I was paying a lot of attention to it. And it's interesting because, when you're working on that, I was really like every day working on it. And I got to the point where there were times where I wasn't sure if I was dreaming or not dreaming, because when you're putting your attention and you're really kind of putting every focus onto it, it kind of can destabilize you in a way.
It does, yes.
Yeah, there was a time I was in the grocery store with my mom, and she said, oh, can you watch my cart? I have to go to the bathroom. And I'm like, okay. And she got back, and I was like, I didn't notice time went by. I was just like, so, like, whoa. I didn't realize she was gone that long. So things like that can happen when you're so focused on this stuff, but amazing things can happen too. And so again, with my partner that we work on all these fun stuff, we decided to go to Mars, specifically Cydonia.
Nice.
And that we were going to fly there, meet, have a picnic. I mean, we built it all up to make excitement around it so that it would happen. So just like in life, I got stood up and he didn't show up.
Oh.
And I'm like, okay, make the best of it. So I took a blanket and I spread out a blanket, and the blanket was pink, and I thought, oh, maybe I should make it blue. So I made the blanket blue and I sat down and I put my hands and my feet in the sand. And I'm like, wait a minute, this doesn't feel like sand. And I touched it and I looked at my hand, and the inside of my hand looked like, henna, when you get henna, it was that color stained on my hand. But the feeling of the sand didn't feel like sand. It felt like powder, like flour or something like that. Ooh. And I'm like, well, that's weird. And then I woke up and I, called up my friend and I'm like, do you know anything about the sand on Mars? And he's like, no, look it up. So I did a search, and one of the articles talks about the sand on Mars, comparing it to talc, like talcum powder.
Wow.
And I'm like, how the heck would I know that?
Right.
If I wasn't there. Like, what are the odds? Like, I wasn't looking. I mean, it was just a random thing. So that was really cool.
That is
and then
cool.
The other one, we were supposed to meet at the pyramids. And he showed up. And but one of the things, we were inside, and something compelled me that I wanted to go under the pyramids for some reason. And I'm looking around for a door, and I'm like, wait, I don't need a door. I can just go down, because, hey.
Intention is everything. Yep.
Mm-hmm.
Right. So I go inside about 6 feet down or something, and I see these tubular structures covered in gold. Like it looked like little, gold. It was a gold color. It looked like some kind of, tubes that carry stuff, maybe water, or I don't know what, but they were going in many different directions, like a maze. And then I thought to myself, talk about a dream within a dream. I said, where did these things get made? Who made these things? And then I got shot back to, Egyptian times, where they were melting little, 1 inch by 1 inch sheets of gold and creating these tubes. Like, they were melting them together and creating tubes. Wow. And so it was so detailed. And I remembered when I came back that I thought, this is important. So because I work at the radio show, I get to talk to all the experts on Egypt and whatever. So I called Richard Scooch or Such or
Dr. Soch. Dr. Scotch. Yes.
Soch. Yeah, him.
No, Dr. Shock.
Shock.
I'm sorry. Yes. It's Dr. Shock, but it's spelt Scotch. Yes. He's like a mentor of mine. Yes. I should have known that. Yeah. It's Dr. Shock.
Okay,
what did he say? You're welcome.
So he goes, it's entirely possible. He said, and, the problem is that, they have so many, they won't let you go into the pyramids or dig under. They have so many rules that nobody's allowed to look. He said, but there are many theories that there is something, and he did talk about some kind of water, going through these piping systems.
Like a system?
Some kind of system that was under there. So I don't know. And every time I remote view the pyramids, power comes up. Something about a source of power. So,
come on. That's like an ancient alien theory thing too. Right? Wow.
Yeah, it's wicked cool.
Yeah, that's awesome. We should all do that. We should plan on doing that, all of us together.
Right?
See how we meet you there.
It's something I definitely want to practice more, because I am starting to practice, and it takes work.
Yeah, I think it's really intention, like just focused attention, and, even if you write it down or say it 5 times while you're falling asleep, you can make it happen. And, and it's fun. We just make it playful and it can for sure work.
That's really cool. I love that idea. Actually, that reminds me again, something Dr. Joe Gallenberger was telling us. He stopped lucid dreaming because he was losing track of reality versus his dreaming as well.
Yeah.
And he actually doesn't do it anymore for that reason, because it became too confusing. How into you can get. And the feeling of lucid dreaming is amazing. It's like the most vivid dream you ever have. And I think vivid dreams are very much related to lucid dreams, which are very related to astral projection.
And remote viewing, when you start doing it and you keep doing it, actually brings this all out.
It does. It seems to,
and that's why
accentuate
you always told us to keep a dream journal.
Right. Exactly. It's important. And, a lot of people have, when you go back and you even talk about, horrifying things like 9/11, there are many people that have had dreams before it happened. And, if we can really do something where lots of people can rely on this, I think, I'm not sure if they even completed it, but there was somebody working on an app that would log dreams from all over the world, and they would create an algorithm that can match up similar dreams, and then do a study on that information. I think it might be Dr. Julia Mossbridge. Then she works for the Institute of Noetic Sciences.
Oh, I joined that a couple of weeks ago on Facebook. They have a couple of sites, and we joined them.
Oh, great! Yeah, they are doing a lot of state of the art cool stuff. The other one that I'd like to recommend is Heart Math. Are you familiar with Heart Math?
No.
How do you spell it? Is it HART or EART?
Like your heart, HEART, math, MATH.
Okay.
And they have a lot of technology also, but they believe in, just being, heart conscious. And, so there's like a whole, you should probably have those people on too, to talk about.
What was Julia's last name? How do you spell it?
Mossbridge. I can contact her for you or send.
That'd be great. Thank you.
That'd be wonderful. Thank you.
It. Yeah, I definitely appreciate it. It's interesting you mentioned 9/11. I know there's just so many things that were happening in society, and the instances of where before it happened, it was coming out like in art. Like there's a band called Dream Theater, who I'm a fan of, especially their early works, had released I don't know if you know the story. This is a true story. They released a live album. It was called Live in New York. And prominently displayed on that was the New York skyline and the Twin Towers. And basically, it was like Live in New York, and they had all this fire around them. Not that they were actually burning down in the pictures, but it seems so symbolic. And do you know it was released on that day? They went and changed the cover, but it was released on 9/11.
It's really weird.
And this is a real thing. You can look this up. And there are other instances too. I researched that for a while ago, like years ago. It was amazing, like how many things were turning up in society. So you wonder, again, with the remote viewing, we talked about how we have the collective consciousness kind of shared thing, and like all this knowledge, time, space doesn't seem to matter. It's all available to us, and how it can show up in art. And there's other good examples of that. Showing up in art, and then the thing actually happens. Art mean music or painting or illustration. It's fascinating. Fascinating when you start to dig a little bit.
Yeah, but even when you think about some of the greatest inventions of our time back, several people had come up with the same invention at the same time, and it was really down to who would get what's it called when
patent.
you get it?
The patent.
who gets
We
a
got-
patent first.
Yeah, it's Tesla and Edison. We know who you're talking about.
Yeah. I mean, it's because to me that is also a consciousness. It's kind of like the idea of an idea. Is you can't really own an idea because it is a collective conscious thing. Like brainstorming something, it'll trigger something, and then from that becomes an idea. So no one can really own an idea, right?
Right. Well, I never
Kind of
thought of it
interesting.
that way.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, they can legally because that's how we decided to make it. But if you really think about it, nobody can own the idea because it's from the collective conscious.
Exactly.
Downloaded from the aliens.
That's right.
There you go.
That's right. That's very
The
possible.
simulation.
The simulation there, it's just,
Yeah.
part of the simulation. And I'm just going to show our listeners what I was talking about with that
Dream theater.
dream theater thing, because it's pretty interesting if you don't know the story. And I hope that comes up clear enough.
Wow, look at that.
Can you see that? And
Yeah.
yeah,
Ooh,
that was,
It is
right?
creepy.
and it was actually released on 9/11. So that's just so weird. Things like that can happen and do happen. And, they kind of go under the wire. So how interesting.
Crickets. The cricket.
Crickets what? Oh, the crickets
Oh,
button.
no.
I don't know what the crickets button is right now. I had a moment where I didn't speak, and now we have a little
All right.
running joke. We have a cricket noise. Is it this one?
No, that's
Oh, no.
that's my button.
That's sad trombone. Still getting used to some of the sounds we got in there.
Yeah, it's boom, boom. That's
Yeah,
my
we'd
button.
like to load
cute.
EVPs on there and stuff. And, we use that for a lot of stuff, which is kind of neat. And since I did reference a couple of the shows, I'm just going to give ourselves a little plug here on non-network related. We have a YouTube site out there. If you look up Dark Horse Paranormal, where you can see our past episodes and examples of our research.
Mm-hmm.
So just going to throw that out there since we talked about John
And subscribe,
Joe,
subscribe.
Smash that like button.
Smash that button. You give it a big
Yeah.
smash. Yeah.
Yeah.
I do voices too. I don't know if you knew that.
No,
I don't know if people understand how important it is to just, subscribe.
It makes a difference. It at least makes me feel good.
yeah. But we have a lot of content, especially like remote viewing with you, and we think that they would learn a lot. Absolutely.
Absolutely. And we always bring up like what we're doing. We've talked about your classes on our show before and stuff.
Oh, yeah, that's so good. You guys, really, really good, really good students. And I was impressed at how fast you guys picked it up, and there's a couple other people also that just picked everything up fast and you're all doing really great. And,
Thank you.
Oh, we appreciate that.
My dream was to put together a team, but it took a while because I've been teaching for about 2 years and I just couldn't find the right, group of people and right now we have six people, and it's like really good synergy. I think everyone, seems to get along and we just do really well together.
Works well together.
Yeah. And the idea is that, the next step after we're at a place where everyone's feeling a little bit more comfortable, then the next step is to just, people to seek us out to help them with things, find missing, I lost my wedding ring. Where is that? Or, any kind of anything that we can work on.
Sure.
We're still trying to remote view Chris's remote from 3 months ago.
Right. I can't remote view my remote. So
Remember? Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah, we can't.
I haven't really put any time into remote viewing. I'll be honest with you. We just get used to using another remote.
You know what we should do now is ask anybody listening right now
It just sounds
to just
funny.
tune in to Chris's remote control and just take a piece of paper and anything that comes out, don't name things, but just what do you perceive when you think about Chris's remote, his remote, any shapes, any colors, any smells, any sounds. Describe where is that remote viewer right now? That's a question.
Okay.
So everybody take out and then take a picture of your piece of paper and send it to Chris and Kristen. And
you can send that to bigfootandthebunny@gmail.com.
Please do.
Yeah. And maybe we can find your remote once and for all.
Yes,
right?
Thank you.
All right.
That's like the quick and dirty remote viewing.
That's awesome.
I'm going to get letters
Michelle.
like, it's under your bed, you dumbass.
Also sketch, just don't, sketch. Like if an image comes to you, even if it doesn't make sense, just sketch that out on the paper. Chris and Kristen might make sense of it.
Yes, thank you. We probably would. John Russell, are you still listening? Do you hear this, dear psychic? Could you please tell us?
Yeah, we should ask John that last week. Like, hey, John, where's
Love
my
John.
remote, man?
John's awesome.
But in a few minutes we got left, I wanted to talk a little bit about past life regression with you. That's an interesting focus of hypnosis, which is something else you also do.
Mm-hmm.
You tell us about how that works and how do people get into their real past lives? So you must have some really fascinating stories about that.
Yeah. So usually I use past life regression on in a therapeutic way. So we set the intention to go to a life that's going to help work out something in this life. And it's designed basically, that's how you kind of frame it. And then you go into a deep trance and then the person that has, like, I had a client that came to me for biting her nails and she came in thinking, well, I just want to stop biting my nails. So there is therapy for that, behavioral therapy. It's pretty common. People know you just kind of replace biting your nails with something else, whatever. But when we were hypnotizing her, we found that it was actually connected to something else in her life from her past. And that needed to be regressed and to take it, back in time to a time where, this kind of triggered this behavior. So we regress people like that. Sometimes those regressions are not, or sometimes the origin of the issue comes from a different life. So it's not from this life. Sometimes it could come from the womb. I had another client that had really bad eczema and and it turned out that when, and we had to so I was hypnotizing her and I asked her to take me back, to the time where the origin of this issue. And all of a sudden she started to freak out while she was in trance. And she kept screaming, take me out, take me out. And I woke her up and I'm like, what's the matter? She's like, I don't know. I couldn't breathe. I was surrounded by water. I don't know, whatever. And we figured that she was in the womb.
Wow.
And so I asked her to go ask her mother about if she had any traumas while she was pregnant. So her mother confessed to her and said one, that her father was abusive. And so this girl that I worked with didn't know that because she didn't know her father, but he was abusive. He locked her in a closet while she was pregnant and another time pushed her down the stairs.
Oh my God. It's
right,
awful.
So she, when she was a baby in the womb, was traumatized too because the mom was traumatized.
Right.
So
Sure.
It manifested as eczema on her body. And so we healed that. And now her eczema, it's not completely gone the last I talked to her, but it's significantly better.
Oh, that's wonderful.
So that went to the womb. But then I have another story, which is kind of cute. When I was first learning in school, I would use my family as a guinea pigs. I'm like, anything I learned, I'm like, hey, come on, you have to do this. So I grabbed my brother and my mom, and I'm like, okay, guys, we're going to do this. So I put them in trance. I did my thing. And then it was time to get them up, and I woke my mom up, and I'm like, oh, well, how was it? Where did you go? What happened? She's like, I don't know. She said, but my name was Nigel. And she had this whole story. She said, my name is Nigel. And, you know, it almost, I don't know. She just had this whole crazy story. I'm like, okay, great. Yeah. All right. This works. So then I wake up my brother, and he's like so out. He went so deep that he was just like out of it and groggy. And I'm like, oh, so how was it? And he's like, I don't know, man. I was Jesus. I'm like, huh? Like, you're Jewish. You know, what do you mean you were Jesus? You know, like, what are you talking about? Do we have to change the whole Jewish religion now? So he's like, he goes, I don't know. I don't know. It just was Jesus. And I said, okay. I didn't want to push him. I said, so it'll become more clear in a couple days. Like, don't worry about it. Let's just drop this. So a couple days go by, and I call him up on the phone. I'm like, wasn't it so funny that you thought you were Jesus? And he goes, like, I'm the idiot. He's like, I didn't think I was Jesus. It was like Jesus or something. I was like, Jesus. I'm like, oh, okay.
He was Greek.
Right. I'm like,
Jesus.
so then yeah, right. I'm like, so we'll regress you again, and we'll see, you know, what's the story. So he's like, oh, I'm there. I'm like, huh? Like, I'm thinking I didn't learn this in class. So he's like, yeah, I'm there. And we're on the phone. Like, we weren't in person. We were on the phone, and he just went into trance. And I'm like, oh crap, what do I do? Right. And so I just start asking him questions, like, tell me about your environment. And he was like, and if you know my brother, he's like not very on board with all this stuff. So, he's like, I don't know. I just smell mules. I mean, like in the desert, it's sandy everywhere. He's like, I'm at like a shook or something, like, you know, at this place, whatever. I said, go find a mirror. Is there a mirror somewhere? Like, describe what you look like. And he basically described like some, you know, guy in the desert. It was back in time, whatever. I don't know. He was giving me details that were weird. Like, he's like, I have a leather braided bracelet on my wrist. And I'm like, okay. And he's like, I made it myself. And he's talking in real time, which is like, all these are signs that he's definitely feeling like he's there. And I'm like, okay, well, let's move to the time of your death. And he's like, okay. And he goes, I'm falling down a well. And I'm like, well, what happened? He goes, I don't know. I'm just going, And I'm like, okay. And he goes, wait, I see myself. I have blood coming out of my mouth. I can see my position. I said, okay. And I said, I don't know what made me say this, but I said, is this the reason why you have a fear of heights? And he goes, yes. And I said, okay. And then I started the whole healing process. So we worked on healing his fear of heights. And then I woke him up, and that was the end of it. And it was really funny because the whole time that we were doing this, he was walking in the house back and forth. He had no idea he was like in a trance or anything. He was just so like, whatever, you know, it was crazy.
Wow.
I guess so.
About 3 months after that, I said, you know, tell me about, like, are you afraid of heights? You know, he goes, put it this way, because he does a lot of work on roofs. He goes, I have a healthy fear of heights now, you know, and so it worked. And I was like, that is so cool.
It is.
Yeah. So that was really, and that was when I was training. Like, that wasn't even, you know, since where I've regressed, people that were abducted and stuff like that. So that's
amazing.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
Right? He was back in the day when, like, hump day meant washing your camel. Oh my God, that was a bad joke.
That's my butt.
I just wanted to use the rim shot. Sorry. Like, seriously.
I'm so lucky you got to use it while I'm here.
Yeah,
Oh,
wait, and
great.
I'll show. Like, I want to press the button. No, I'm just kidding. I don't know why I thought of that silliness, but I think that is so fascinating. And I think trance states are really fascinating. Meditation states. And, you see these and things like the Estes method, for example.
Mm-hmm.
All right.
From Connor Randall.
Randall and Carl Pfeiffer there with Hellier came out with, where people kind of do a little bit of sensory deprivation and they're blindfolded and they've got sound canceling headphones on, noise canceling, so they can't hear anybody around them. And they're kind of in a semi-trance state while they have like a spirit box running, and they're just, people are asking questions that you can't hear, but they'll say things and it seems relevant. And, it's just, it's interesting. It's like they're tapping into something else, some other layer of that onion that we were talking about earlier.
You missed one part of that. They're in a different room from
Right, they
the
might
person.
be in a different room.
Yeah. Asking questions.
So it's kind
really
of cool stuff because it does revolve around that trance state idea.
The beta, theta. And
that's so cool.
Where your brain goes and what comes out and what has the ability to speak through you. That it's a past life or, the spirit of a loved one. Or, who knows? It's just interesting. Or you're just tapping into this kind of, like the Akashic Records type thing, which it just seems to be this endless supply of knowledge, like everything that's ever happened and hasn't.
Right. Your subconscious has permanent memory. It remembers everything. It's just that, we don't have the ability to bring it all forward at one time. But, sometimes you have to kind of jiggle it up a little bit and bring it forward. But, we do know everything,
Like you mentioned with hunting, it's almost like muscles you haven't used,
Right.
You have forgotten in our convenient society how to smell for elk or whatever it might be, or look for those certain inconsistencies in nature that might, contribute to your survival skills.
Exactly. Graham Hancock says we're a species with amnesia, and basically we kind of are, because when you think about it, like you were saying, with the muscles we haven't used, like atrophy, the brain part, parts of the brain we haven't used, and that's where it comes from.
So before we sign off, and stay with us, okay, we're going to wrap up, but I wanted to show everybody your website out there is butterflyeffectcenter.com. And I've got it up on my screen if you're watching the video. But if you're at home listening, just go to www.butterflyeffectcenter.com. And you can find out all about Michelle's remote viewing classes, hypnosis, and some other things. You've got some things about your LITM media and Midnight FM on there as well. And I noticed you updated the site recently. It's looking good.
Always tweaking.
Always tweaking. We're always seeking perfection. That's what keeps us going, right?
Yeah, it is.
Yeah.
But that's what we have time for. Let me just going to pull you out of the stream, Michelle. Stay on, okay? I wanted to talk with you real quick. That's okay. And we'll wrap this thing up. Next week, we have Satori Hawes and Cody Despians, and I hope I said that right. I probably hacked your name. I'm sorry, Cody. From Taps and Ghost Nation. They formed the Paranormal Couple, and I think you can find them at paranormalcouple.com, and they have a show on Facebook, the Paranormal Couple's Haunted Museum of Objects, Oddities, and Curiosities, and they are a fascinating pair that has grown up in the paranormal world, and I think if you're not familiar with them, you're going to love them. If you know them, you love them already. So do check that out. And that's all the time we have.
I wanted to say Happy Mother's Day to all the moms and grandmas and everybody.
Oh, yeah,
out
that's
there.
right. Tomorrow's Mother's Day. So say hello to your mama and, give her a flower kiss. I don't know. Give her some. Let her know she's out there and good stuff. So we appreciate it.
Yeah.
We'll see you next Saturday. Same bad time, same bad place. Take care. And
bye.
Yeah, bye. Have a great rest of your evening.